It's the middle of the night in a tiny Czech town.
Dneska jdete pozdě, pane Šmejkal. Bohužel zavírám. Dobrou noc.
Jan Kostřáb, a local pub owner, is closing his pub when his sister Marie arrives unannounced.
Marie!
Jene, pomoz mi. Celý den mám takový pocit, že mě někdo sleduje.
She is distressed.
Zvláštní, já taky.
She shares with her brother that she feels as if someone has been following her.
Dobře.
He says it's probably nothing. Overnight, the town is shaken by a kidnapping of these two residents. You see it on TV, and you know this is your chance. You are a cop, and you will find them. Unfortunately for you, though, you are as stupid as a rock. Polda, aneb s poctivostí nejdřív pojdeš, is a 1998 Czech point-and-click adventure game, originally made for MS-DOS and Windows 95/98. It was the first professionally dubbed Czech game, created by the Sleep Team, company behind a later successful game Bulanci, while the dubbing and distribution was provided by Zima Team. As simple as it looks, this little adventure game contains whopping 35 locations and 45 interactive characters, all dubbed by the best of the best Czech voice actors and comedians of the time. It is best described as a parody game. It contains what the developers described as classic Czech humor, which is just differently branded dark humor, very typical for the 90s in the small post-Soviet occupation country. That being said, the game is a little miracle. What started as an amateur passion project of three classmates with the codename Chaloupka, it became the best-selling PC game of the 1999. It is a Czech classic with somewhat of a cult following, which led to developing a whole franchise of games. As of today, there are 7 installments of the bizarre cop stories, the last of which came out in 2022. Needless to say, the newer installments have not been able to repeat the massive popularity of the first 3 games, and we will talk about why later. Despite that, the first Polda game was a game changer in Czech game development. Adults loved this edgy humor and the ridicule of police work and bureaucracy. Kids played it without really understanding what's going on, and no one seemed to give a hoot. I remember having a copy on our family computer when I was in the kindergarten. I was 5 or 6, and it was a hot topic within the kids in our small town, so similar to one of the game. As an adult, I understand the critique it got back then. It scored very well within the gaming industry, but got some minor criticism about being quite short and illogical in certain steps. As a kid, though, we played the game for weeks, unable to finish it. It was really hard to navigate for a kid who didn't understand how certain things work in this world. Some things straight up didn't make sense to a kid me, but the adult me knows now that these parts were just that, illogical for the sake of showing the idiocy and ridiculousness of our system. But to understand that, let's look at the story itself. The premise of Polda is quite simple. You are the typical Czech cop. You know the jokes about how cops have to walk everywhere in couples because one can read and one can write. Yeah, that's the kind of cop you are. Your name is Pankrat. You live with your grandma and you are not the sharpest. Just one look around Pankrat's room tells you everything you need to know. The poster of Jumbo the elephant, the fairy tale book you find under the bed, even just the fact that Pankrat, an adult policeman, lives alone with his grandma, who cooks for him. He has this childish charm to him, almost like Mr. Bean sleeping with his teddy bear. You know he's an adult, but there are some childlike qualities that make the character extra funny. Your job seems fairly easy. Investigate the disappearance of Jan and Marie Kostřáb. Seems pretty straightforward, but you waking up that day starts a sequence of ridiculous events shrouded in mystery and silliness. The story spans over 3 days, during which different locations get available to you. The story is not necessarily linear. You have all these locations available, and it's on you in which order you visit them. Sometimes you have to go back a few times, sometimes you manage to get it all in the most logical order on the first try, but mostly it doesn't happen. There are numbers of items you pick up and use, some that you don't use at all. I'm looking at you, bag of cocaine. And most importantly, you meet all these caricatures of people you know from your life as a Czech person. Some push the story forward, such as the police clerk who doesn't want to give you the paperwork for your case without assigned permission, or the homeless man who is secretly a lawyer trying to frame cops for police brutality. Some characters have no significance on the story whatsoever, but add a very important and charming flavor to the world, such as the woman in the window spying on the street. You know, we all know a lady like this from our hometowns. Or these dudes in the newspaper office telling you they're very busy, unlike you. As you wake up the morning of day 1, the first thing you say is that you feel sick because you overate on the pork chops your grandma cooked last night. You see grandma in the next room, but you don't talk because she is knitting, listening to her Walkman. Yes, a Walkman. That's how old I am. And you're a little shit, by the way, and steal the batteries from her Walkman. Well, way to go, you little prick, Pankrat. You arrive at the police station and you demand the paperwork for the disappearance case you've been assigned, but the clerk wants a permission from the chief. Not because it's protocol or anything, but simply because he didn't see the news report last night and doesn't believe you that you have been assigned to the case. Your only chance is to call the police station pretending you're the chief, but there's a problem. You don't have a phone. No, not a cell phone, mind you. This was in 1998 in Czechia. Your grandma's house doesn't have a landline. So you bother your neighbor who does have a landline until he opens the door, and you, as the player, learn that Pankráts has shot his wife in the face in self-defense while aiming for her legs. That's the first glimpse you get into Pankráts' life and character. He is utterly stupid and incompetent, yes, but also he is a bad cop and a bad person. He doesn't restrain from threatening people with violence and using his status of a policeman to get what he wants. Here stands a man whose wife Pankráts almost murdered out of recklessness without any punishment. And Pankráts has the audacity to ask whether he can visit her to say hi, like a complete sadistic lunatic. Subsequently, he threatens the neighbor into letting Pankráts use the landline, which, mind you, that was a very expensive thing back in the day, so whenever Pankráts uses it, the neighbor will have to pay the minutes. So, right at the beginning of the game, it states the obvious. Pankráts is no hero. He is morally grey, incompetent person with no care for his surroundings and people around. You finally get the paperwork, and the paperwork for the case states there is a witness, some Mr. Schmeichel. But to talk to him, you have to get past his wife. She is holding Schmeichel locked inside so that he doesn't drink. A little note, pub culture is a national heritage here in Czechia. It's very normal to go to the pub every day after work for a beer or 2, or 5, or 8. We're a nation of alcoholics in denial. So the only way in is the opened window on the second floor. As you look through the surroundings, you want to pick up a paper box next to a trash can, but the trash can has a tenant. There's a homeless man who claims this box is his possession. He clearly taunts you with his anti-police verbal attacks, and Pankráts loses his temper. He whips out the revolver and, as an accident of course, shoots the homeless man. To be able to get the man's possessions, including the box, he has to rummage through the bulletin board at the police station to find a phone number for a garbage collector company. Yes, you hear me right. He lets the presumably dead body of a homeless man get dumped into a garbage truck. Just like that. Zero remorse. He also gets a wheel clamp at the police station and decides, for yet another evil deed, he puts it on a random car in front of the ad agency. As the owner comes, Pankrácz proceeds to charge him with offense after offense after offense, starting with bad parking and littering, ending with obstructions to a public official when the man defends himself. So now we have a power-hungry dirty cop with a full wallet. What does he do? He goes to a pet shop, of course. Here, the shop owner is convinced Pankrácz came for the protection money and proceeds to offer a bribe. Pankrácz gets offended for being called a dirty cop and, you guessed it, whips out the revolver again. Due to his terrible aim, he manages to miss the shop owner numerous times, killing an elephant though, good grief. And he buys a postal eagle and a dog. The eagle is then used to bring up the box with the rope and full of cobblestones into Šmejkal's window. By the way, this is the only time you can fuck up your game and get stuck. If you don't put the stones into the box or just let the eagle fly, you have no way to continue and have to either go back to a previous save or start anew. And trust me, I know this firsthand. So Pankrácz climbs up and finds the poor excuse of a man, Šmejkal, quivering in his room. In a true 90s Czechia way, he despises his wife and is terrified of her. He's also deaf AF because his wife took his hearing aid and threw it into the aquarium. So first, you need Šmejkal to hear you, as the fish in the aquarium, called Adelka, by the way, is a piranha. You need to feed her before sticking your hand in. So back to the pet shop we go. The shopkeeper insults you as ever, but you don't mind because you have the brain of an emu, and he tells you that the last box of fish food was sold already. To whom, you ask? To a man with a bucket full of concrete on his foot. Pankrácz finds this man on the outskirts of the town. He is standing on a tiny little bridge, ready to jump into the shallow brook. He's clearly committing what would be considered a performative suicide. He has the fish food so the fish don't eat his face and don't make the identification too hard when his body is found. Pankrácz, being the jolly good guy he is, talks the man out of it. He explains to him that the brook is very shallow and he wouldn't be able to drown anyways. Besides, the fashionable way of committing a suicide these days is burning yourself alive. So the man thanks him for the insight, gives him the fish food, and proceeds to go to the town to figure out how to make himself a human torch. Good guy Pankrácz. Does Adelka want the fish food? Fuck no! Pankrácz loses his marbles and shoots at the aquarium and retrieves the hearing aid, to which Šmejkal, the epitome of a Czech husband, says that "My wife really loved that fish. She's gonna get a heart attack when she sees this. Thank you, son." And being an absolute piece of shit, he also tells Pankrácz that he's forgotten everything from the night of the disappearance and that he won't remember until he gets a beer. The problem is, the only pub in the city is closed because Jan Kostřáb, its owner, is missing. That's where the dog gets in handy, but you have to train him first, and conveniently, there is a new dog training field in town. It is, however, guarded by a soldier, but luckily for Pankrácz, this green brain is even stupider than him. So after you convince the soldier that when he closes his eyes no one can see him, you train the dog, and the dog brings you a bottle of beer. You never see the dog again, by the way, but he still lives in my heart. Šmejkal gets buzzed and makes you draw an awful portrait of the kidnapper. You take it to the ad agency where everyone is obsessed with UFOs for some reason, and after a little back and forth, you convince the boss to print an ad with that portrait in tomorrow's paper. So, your first day as a brain-dead police officer ends. I would like to stop here for a minute and talk about the music you've been listening to this whole time. It is the original score to this game, and I have to say, these looping melodies have been living rent-free in my head ever since I was a child. There's something deeply unsettling yet catchy about them, and I can't say I've heard anything like them since. They create a unique atmosphere for the painfully real yet unbelievable happenings of the small imaginary town, which makes it feel as its own little universe somewhere in the middle of nowhere. The score was created by Lubor Kopecký, who later successfully graduated from FAMU, where he's been teaching since 2008. He also founded and now organizes the Czech Game of the Year Awards, and he publishes about and supports local small game developers, and he also worked on Bulanci later. Anyways, wakey, rise and shine. Pankrács wakes up and finds morning paper and some letters at the door. The newspaper is real fun to read. It contains some Easter eggs, such as some beef between different game devs of the time. But it also tells you a story about the shot homeless man or about the punk youth of Lipany. And if you read carefully, you also notice a sex ad from your superior's wife. Yikes. You're more interested in the letters though. One of them is from a bacha, a shepherd who lives secluded life outside of the town and who has seen the suspect from the newspaper. And because nothing can be easy and straightforward in this game, your car has no gas. No need to despair though. After some snooping around, you'll find the suicidal man from yesterday near a convenience store. He has a canister of gas and is ready to set himself ablaze. He won't give it to you though. No. This time he will totally do it, you know. So after some more aimless wandering, you arrive at the police station and find out that the homeless man is alive. Inshallah, you're not a murderer after all. But you do shoot him again right away because he brags that he still has the bullet, your bullet, in his arm, and he will absolutely use it as evidence to sue your ass. You know, you gotta get that pension money somehow. So you fog him up and steal his jacket and a bottle of rubbing alcohol or whatever it is he's chugging. You manage to swap it with the suicidal man, convincing him that the alcohol will give a better spectacle. And you leave back home, accompanied by the beautiful fire show behind you. The bacha is a fucking drunk. His dog is also a drunk. So after some pointless babbling, you are told that the suspect is stealing bacha's eggs, and you finally have a plan of attack. You will put a localization bug in the egg, and thus find the suspect. And because nothing can be fucking easy in this game, it takes you fucking hours to do this. So to speed things up a bit, you collect some stuff you can make the bug with, but the building instructions are in a book you can't reach. Quiz time, ding 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 ding. To get the book from the top shelf, you A. Stand on a chair to reach it. B. Ask the neighbor to give you a little lift to reach it. C. Buy shady meds for erectile dysfunction in a sex shop, pour that shit into the plant next to the bookshelf, and then climb the plant to reach the book. Yeah, I wish I was kidding. Oh, also, you killed Bacha's rooster. Forgot to say that. Like, very important. Pankrács is a monster. Anyway, there's this new sex shop in town. You park a few blocks away from it, and the dingus you are, you lock your keys inside the car. Good job, buddy. There are two grandpas sitting on a bench whom I ship, and you cannot stop me. As you ask where the new sex shop is, they proceed with this surreal masterclass in nonsensical script writing, arguing about which of them is the magical grandpa for that day, because they have a schedule. They fall asleep, they go completely off topic. It's overall frustrating yet hilarious interaction, and it's never explained if they're battling dementia, fucking with you for fun, or if they're just, like that. You also find out that one of them is the father of Jan and Marie Kostra. In between the nonsense, he remembers that he once forgot them in the woods, and they were traumatized ever since. After all that, they finally point you towards the sex shop. Oh, you thought you could just get in, just like that? No. The punks are in the way. The punks hate cops. Oh, you thought you could threaten them? Bitch, they got guns too, so back off, woof woof. Remember the convenience store from before? Well, now is the time to get in. And the lady behind the counter is all of us who ever had to work retail.
Prosím.
Dobrý den, máte?
Nemáme.
Sakra, to je obsluha. Jak víte, co potřebuju?
Hádám, buď to máme, nebo nemáme. Je to 50/50, že uhodnu.
I love her, I would die for her. She tells Pankráz that the shop is closing for good soon, so they don't have much stuff to offer. You can, however, buy a pack of gum and some colorful hairspray. You can also buy some other valuable stuff, such as some shriveled fruit, an empty box of laundry detergent, or an overpriced pencil sharpener. And no, you don't use any of that ever in the future. There's one more thing you need for the localization bug, and that's a radar. So you visit your superordinate, who's bedridden at the moment, at his home. He's absolutely nuts, claiming he's suffering from some disease that attacks the brains of men who wear uniforms. Better watch out. He won't give you shit and talks utter nonsense, so at least when he falls asleep, you steal his drugs. Yay! Now you have everything you need to become a hip teenager. So you put on the leather jacket, spray your hair, chew on some gum, and offer the troubled teens some drugs with a dash of "What up, fellow kids" on the side. Now you're in the sex shop, and I cannot emphasize how much I would rather be anywhere else. Anywhere. I have to say though, while I'm absolutely sure the creators were trying to be offensive here, they created one of the first Czech gender non-conforming role models in the shape of the sex shop clerk. Bearing both male and female gender markers, the clerk uses it pronouns while being sex positive and encouraging towards our brain-dead cop to find exactly what he needs, which is a pack of the smallest condoms on the market and the aforementioned erection meds. So you drug the plant, get the book, make the bug. You still don't have the radar though, and so you remember that sex ad in the newspaper and the pack of condoms you have? Yeah. Anyways, Květa Ištoková, the sister of Lara Croft, yes, that Lara Croft, asks her husband to kindly give you the radar, and nothing else happened. You hide the bugged egg in the chicken coop and you go soundly to sleep. The third day arises. You hop in the car and follow the signal of the egg, and lo and behold, you arrive to the gingerbread house? You can't get in because you use your brutal force strictly towards civilians, so you get Bacha's ram. You get lost on the way though, you climb up a tree to see the light from the gingerbread house, you meet a magical grandma who has no bearing on the story whatsoever, and you get inside the house. You stand face to face to your old, sweet, ever-knitting grandma, and Marie Kostřábová is behind her, held captive like an animal. After some back and forth, Grandma finally confesses. Her sister Olga was killed by 2 children when Pankráz was a child. Grandma finally found those 2 pricks and decided it's time for revenge. She captured Jan and Marie Kostřáb, the 2 children once left in the woods by their father, and faced with a cannibalistic murderer Olga, to kill them. Pankráz for once shows some integrity and pushes his grandma into the fire of the oven. He saves Maria from the prison, but wait a minute, where's Jan? Distressed, Maria explains, Jan was captured, slaughtered, and cooked. He was the pork chops Pankráz overate on 3 days ago. Looking back, the story is very simple, and if you pay enough attention, you notice the similarities with the story of Hansel and Gretel right along. After all, the fairy tale you find under Pankráz's bed the first morning says exactly this story. You are now finished with the game and faced with a number of questions. Or at least I was, and I still am. Where are Pankráz's parents? Were they also victims of the matriarchs of this family? Or rather, were they also criminals and cannibals? Is Pankráz's cruelty the result of his family's past? After all, when it comes to kidnappings and cannibalism, Grandma says it runs in the family. Where are Lupany, and what exactly are they? The police force clearly doesn't work. Pankrácz is the only street cop on duty that we ever meet. The police clerk is reading his newspaper, not giving a shit, and the police chief is at home, clearly making shit up about his mysterious illness. There's a pub, there's a pet shop, there's a sex shop, but the only shop with groceries has no food to sell. A lone armed soldier is guarding a dog park. There is a shepherd speaking with a dialect that does not match the rest of the town. There is a woman spying on the street right next to the pub where the kidnapping happened, yet she saw nothing. And she keeps talking about kangaroos? And the town's newspaper only reports about bullshit UFO stories. So what exactly is going on here? The story of Polda is clearly supposed to be a satire of pretty much everything, leaning into what we call Čecháčkovství. It portrays Czech stereotypes in a compact and easy-to-identify way, from the wife-hating drunk through the non-functional bureaucracy to the curious gossipy neighbor as some of the examples. But it also goes beyond the Czech borders, as with the homeless man who pisses cops off to sue them, or the UFO sightings. Those are not things usual for Czech folklore and bring some new perspectives for the Czech player in the late 90s. It also, for the first time, managed to attract well-acclaimed and well-known Czech actors and actresses for the dubbing work. Luděk Sobota as Pankrácz does God's work here. He is, after all, known for playing these silly, confused characters, and his voice matches Pankrácz's stupidity and ignorance perfectly. Jiří Lábus as the gossipy neighbor is pretty much reprising his voice he uses for Marge Simpson, but gives it a certain edge to make the lady extra annoying, and it pays off greatly. And I'm glad he got the chance to dub men as well, such as the suicidal man. Man, you can hear the desperation in his voice. Petra Hanžlíková and the tired-to-death convenience store clerk always steal my heart. Petr Nárožný to me excels as the choleric roles, like the owner of the car Pankrácz uses as an ATM, as well as the homeless man whom you just want to kick in the teeth. Pavel Pípal's range is absolutely unhinged, going from the low voice and accent of Bacha or the newspaper chief, all the way to the soft voice of the sex shop clerk. And Petr Gelnar's pet shop clerk will always be engraved in my brain as the epitome of anxiety. The script makes the game, but the voices make the script. This was unheard of in Czechia at the time, and it carries quite a big legacy when it comes to video game dubbing. So, what happened next? As I said before, 7 games in total are now in this series. Each of them focuses on one case of Pankrácz, and with each game the plot gets more and more fantastical. And to be honest with you, I never made it past the first one. Visually, the rest of the games are extremely ugly to me. Nothing beats the SVGA MS-DOS graphics for me, and I can't get past it. But I can tell you, I'm totally the exception with this mindset. The franchise was extremely popular. The second game came out right in 1999, the third installment followed in 2000, and the fourth in 2002, the fifth in 2005. This is when the game lost its momentum. The sixth game came almost 10 years later in 2014, and the seventh game took another almost 10 years. The seventh game came out in 2022, and while I haven't played it and only watched a bit of gameplay here on YouTube, I could not notice the controversy around it. The game's script was finished back in 2015, but it didn't get the funding. It ended up being crowdfunded. The campaign was very successful because the goal, the 400,000 Czech crowns, was reached within 24 hours, and the campaign ended up with the funding of whopping 1,437,011 Czech crowns. But because it was crowdfunded and the patrons got early access to the finished game, someone leaked the full game before it was released, and Petr Svoboda was not happy about it. The media got flooded with his exhaustingly salty interviews that blamed the audience for low sales. Unfortunately, he was unable to see what really happened. Leaking the game, as shitty as it was not the problem. People who pirated the game would never buy it anyways. Why? because the team behind Polda is still mentally stuck somewhere in the early 2000s. The visuals are subpar. The humor is on the level of a group of 13-year-old boys making fart jokes during recess. The references are kinda outdated, sometimes contemporary, but so stupid and lazy that it makes me gnaw on my headphones when hearing them. Luděk Sobota is 82 years old, still voice acting as this, 20, 30 something guy. But wait, you say, it's supposed to be a parody, it's not supposed to be taken seriously. To which I say, calling a TV channel fart news in 2022 and expecting people to laugh is delusional. We live in a time where players expect more from a game than just a nostalgia trip and a cheap laugh. It's not enough to be funny, which is what this game fails to be anyways. It also has to be interesting, relatable, worth coming back to. It has to have a meaning. It has to be smart. And while the nostalgia can play a big role for some older players, there's nothing, and I mean nothing, the 7th installment brings to newcomers. As a parody game, the creators of Polda have an amazing opportunity to make a statement, to actually use the humor and root it in reality to point out the ridiculously terrifying stuff that's happening around us, just like the first game did. Polda 1 was a very grounded story of a man who should have never become a cop. A man who used his power and the system for his own gain. A man who hid behind his uniform. A man who was such a useless cop and unattentive grandson that he never even noticed his own grandma, the woman he lived with, was a cannibalistic murderer. And yeah, I'm not saying every joke in Polda 1 lands, but there are definitely parts that still get a chuckle out of me after those years, and parts that make me think. Watching Polda 7 feels like going to a high school talent show, maintaining a fake smile for 3 hours and telling all your adult friends their kids were totally awesome, while you're dying inside. The jokes don't land, because the creators used the same humor they did in the 2000s. What was back then seen as edgy, dark humor is now either cringy or slurs, and it relies heavily on referentiality. Now, I noticed that the first game is also praised for its referentiality, but I disagree with this. The first game is rooted in reality. It was made in 1998, so it looks like it's 1998. The news looks like the news from that time. Pankratz drives a Škoda Favorit, which was the police car of the time. The architecture, the interiors, it all looks exactly like 1998. The only real cultural references are like Lara Croft being mentioned, and there are some petty articles about other game developers in the newspaper, which was more of an Easter egg from the developers than anything else. And of course, the whole game is a reference to Hansel and Gretel. But the latest game relies heavily on references in a very different way, and it doesn't really use them for anything. Just look at the stupid fucking names. Donatella Versačko, President Trumpeta, Tomáš Krejzar, that's supposed to be Tom Cruise. Dort Vedro, that usually makes cake hot weather, I don't fucking know. Quentin Tarantulin, Elvin Musk, and these are just a few of the people parodied in the game. Like, who makes a reference to Donatella Versace in 2026? Or in this case, in 2022, in Czechia? She's not relevant. Why would you do that? And if you want to make fun of Trump or Elon Musk, make fun of them or create a different referential character. This is just fucking lazy. This is extremely fucking lazy. So the game is stripped off of creativity for me. Every person is someone you know, just worse and cringier. And as much as I love games rooted in reality, this is not it. Making funny punny iterations of real people's names is, again, something I did when I was 13 and bored in class. I expect more from people who had 1.5 million to work with. I miss original characters, original game design and character design. The game is riddled with an approach rooted in the 1990s and early 2000s, and I need more. That being said, the game is not bad per se. I believe there are people who genuinely enjoy it. I just don't find it appealing at all. So where's the Polda franchise going right now? The 8th installment is coming in late 2026. Am I going to play it? No. But I will forever keep the first one in my heart. By the way, you can play Polda 1 on your Android or Apple phone right now with English subtitles also. I'm not sure if you'll enjoy it as a non-Czech player, but if you ask me, the graphics and music are something great to experience anyways, and you will get a masterclass in Čecháčkovství. Thanks for listening to my babbling. Be nice to each other, take care, and don't trust cops.